In the first century after Christ, the Roman Empire was at the height of its power. It stretched from the deserts of Arabia to the cold shores of Britain. Its armies were unstoppable. Its cities were filled with wealth, trade, and culture. And yet, hidden beneath all that grandeur, in the shadows of its temples and marketplaces, a small, fragile movement was beginning to spread. They were called Christians, followers of a crucified carpenter from a small province called Judea. They had no armies, no political power, no temples of marble or gold, and yet within just a few centuries, their faith would outlive the empire that once tried to destroy them. This is the story of how the early Christians survived the Roman Empire. To understand how remarkable their survival was, we have to understand the world they lived in. Rome was a civilization built on order, loyalty, and power. Religion wasn't a private matter, it was a public duty. Every Roman citizen was expected to honor the gods and to show allegiance to the emperor, who was often worshipped as divine. Now, the Romans weren't against new religions. In fact, the empire was full of them: Egyptian cults, Greek philosophies, Persian mysteries. But there was one rule: whatever you believed, you still had to honor Rome's gods and the emperor. For Christians, that was impossible. They believed there was only one true God, and that worshiping any other, even Caesar himself, was idolatry. That conviction would make them outcasts, and in time, enemies of the state. The first Christians began meeting in small groups, often in secret. They gathered in homes, breaking bread and sharing wine in memory of Jesus. They preached love, forgiveness, and the coming of God's kingdom, a kingdom greater than any emperor's. At first, the Roman authorities saw them as a Jewish sect, just another strange offshoot of an ancient religion. But soon, rumors began to spread. People whispered that Christians were atheists because they rejected the Roman gods. Others claimed they were cannibals because they spoke of eating the body and drinking the blood of the Lord. To many Romans, they seemed strange, secretive, and even dangerous. Then, in the year 64 AD, disaster struck. A massive fire swept through the city of Rome, destroying entire districts. Emperor Nero, facing public outrage, needed someone to blame, and he chose the Christians. According to ancient historians, Nero ordered Christians to be arrested, tortured, and executed in horrific ways. Some were burned alive as human torches. Others were torn apart by wild animals in the arena. It was the beginning of centuries of persecution. But persecution didn't destroy the church, it refined it. When the world turned against them, the Christians didn't respond with violence. They didn't plot rebellion. They simply held to their faith. In the city of Rome, they began meeting in underground tunnels called catacombs. These were burial chambers, cold, dark passageways beneath the city. There, by flickering lamplight, they prayed, sang hymns, and celebrated the Lord's Supper. On the walls, they drew simple symbols to mark their hope: a fish, an anchor, a shepherd carrying a sheep. Each one carried a secret meaning, understood only by believers. The fish, for example, became one of the earliest Christian symbols. The Greek word for fish, ichthys, formed an acronym: Jesus Christ, Son of God, Savior. To outsiders, it was just a fish. To Christians, it was a sign that said, "You are safe here." Even in times of peace, life wasn't easy for believers. They were excluded from trade guilds and public offices because those roles required offering sacrifices to the gods. Some lost their jobs, some lost their families, and some lost their lives. Yet the movement grew, and the reason it grew was not power, but love. When plagues and sickness swept through cities, most people fled, but the Christians stayed. They cared for the sick, even at risk to themselves. They buried the dead when no one else would. They fed the poor, adopted orphans, and welcomed strangers. Their faith wasn't just words, it was visible, sacrificial love. And people noticed. Pagans, philosophers, and even Roman officials wrote in amazement about this new community that cared for everyone, not just their own. Over time, their compassion began to win hearts more effectively than any sort of sermon. But make no mistake, persecution continued. In different parts of the empire, emperors like Decius and Diocletian demanded that all citizens sacrifice to the gods or face punishment. For many Christians, it was a test of loyalty that could cost them everything. Some were imprisoned, some were burned, others were crucified or beheaded in public. And yet, even as thousands died, the church kept growing. The blood of the martyrs became the seed of the church. Their courage inspired others to believe that the message of Christ was worth dying for. They didn't fight back because they believed the real battle wasn't against flesh and blood, but against evil itself. By the beginning of the 4th century, Christianity had spread across every corner of the empire, from the marketplaces of Alexandria to the distant villages of Gaul, from the deserts of Syria to the great city of Rome itself. Then something happened that no one could have predicted. In the year 313, Emperor Constantine issued the Edict of Milan, a decree that made Christianity legal throughout the empire. No longer would believers have to worship in secret or hide in catacombs. The church that had once been hunted now had the freedom to build, to preach, and to grow openly. For the first time in history, the followers of Jesus were free. But it's important to remember this. Christianity didn't survive because of Constantine. It survived because of centuries of faith, courage, and love. Because of men and women who refused to give up hope, even when they faced the arena. Because of families who shared their last loaf of bread with the poor. Because of believers who whispered prayers in the dark, trusting that light would come. Their endurance changed history. Their love conquered fear. And their message that God's kingdom is greater than any empire still echoes through the centuries. So how did the early Christians survive the Roman Empire? They survived not by power or privilege, but by faith. They survived not by fighting back, but by living differently. And they survived not through violence, but through a love so radical that even the might of Rome couldn't destroy it. Empires rise and fall, kingdoms come and go. But the faith that began in hidden rooms and underground tombs still stands today, a reminder that truth and love outlast the strongest empire. Because in the end, it wasn't the sword that changed the world, it was the cross.